The mistake the people in the West make is they think in terms of seconds and days. You can see these are very strategic moves that are being made to open a series of multi-jurisdictional branches of the Shanghai Metals Exchange and others that aren't directly correlated with Shanghai Metals Exchange, but they're all connected. And the premise is that every one of the countries where these exchanges are built will all deposit little bits of gold in all of the exchanges. So I put some gold in here, 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 and everyone does that. So the gold is not held in one jurisdiction by one player. And that way, any imbalances, whether it be once a month or once a quarter, is settled in gold and will ultimately be in various jurisdictions. So the pieces are being put into place.
The BRICS summit emphasizes trade and currency settlement, signaling a continued move away from dollar-based systems. While a fully gold-backed currency may still be a few steps away, the foundational architecture is being quietly constructed. Projects like BRICS Pay are designed to circumvent the SWIFT system, allowing nations to settle cross-border payments independently of the US dollar. In some cases, energy transactions are already being settled in gold, a clear indication of shifting dynamics in global trade. For countries wary of US sanctions or legal influence, gold offers insulation that fiat currencies cannot. This isn't a sentimental call to return to the gold standard. It's a calculated push for strategic autonomy. AndySchectman, CEO of Miles Franklin, notes that the BRICS appears to be building a decentralized gold reserve network. Instead of centralizing gold in a single location, nations are dispersing deposits across multiple vaults in different jurisdictions, creating a more trust-based and resilient system. This trend is reflected in the massive flows of gold from Western vaults to storage facilities outside Western regulatory frameworks. Even leading gold producers, such as China and Kazakhstan, are accumulating gold instead of liquidating it, despite record-high prices. That signals a long-term strategy, not mere opportunism. One emerging theory is that these gold deposits act as a form of mutual hostage-taking. By storing gold across friendly nations, countries create collateral that can underpin hundreds of billions of dollars in trade, essentially replacing US treasuries as a settlement mechanism. Schectman emphasizes that no single nation, not even China, dominates this new system. It's about decentralization and collective ownership, laying the groundwork for a post-dollar global trade order. Make sure to tune in for our expert analysis. Don't miss out on future content. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. Your support is greatly appreciated.
The theme of my presentation is that the BRICS are more dangerous than ever. And dangerous might not be the right word, but I think they're becoming more legitimate than ever. Now, the crux of what I was talking about, it centers around the development that we saw a couple weeks ago where the Shanghai Metals Exchange came out and said we are going to internationalize our exchange by a series of multi-jurisdictional hubs around the first one in which is under construction right now in Hong Kong, the next one in Saudi Arabia, and then a set of contracts has already been put in place to build these exchanges or these depositories all around the Belt Road, through Africa and through Asia, ultimately into South America. We see the growing sentiment of not only the Shanghai Exchange, but the exchange in Dubai. We're going to have an exchange in Moscow that's going to gain prominence. You're going to have an exchange with the BRICS. The whole idea and their announcement that the yuan is now convertible into gold on the Shanghai Exchange using that moment exchange rate for yuan, not converting into dollars, but for yuan. In other words, the yuan is being internationalized, and they came out and said this. So you can see the chess pieces are being put into place where they're going to internationalize yuan and trade it over their bridge platform, which they announced as well. 3 weeks ago, they made the announcement that the renminbi cross-border payment system, which is mBridge, has been integrated and already fully operational with 11 countries in Southeast Asia, the Asian countries, and 5 in the Middle East, which at present time represents nearly 40% of global GDP. I think 38% was the exact number. So you got those countries. And then you have the BRICS, but then you have the Belt Road and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Each one of those two organizations alone account for, the SCO accounts for 50% of human population, 35% of global GDP. Now, there is some crossover in the Belt Road, which is 70% of human population and about 50% of global GDP. You can add in other organizations like the Asiatic countries I mentioned, the Eurasian Economic Union, like Kazakhstan and Russia. There's crossover. But all of these entities are closely aligned with the BRICS. They're not in the BRICS, but all closely aligned. And the whole premise of what I am talking about is that, first and foremost, the mistake the people in the West make is they think in terms of seconds and days. You can see these are very strategic moves that are being made to open a series of multi-jurisdictional branches of the Shanghai Metals Exchange and others that aren't directly correlated with Shanghai Metals Exchange, but they're all connected. And the premise is that every one of the countries where these exchanges are built will all deposit little bits of gold in all of the exchanges. So I put some gold in here, here, and everyone does that. So the gold is not held in one jurisdiction by one player. And that way, any imbalances, whether it be once a month or once a quarter, is settled in gold and will ultimately be in various jurisdictions. So the pieces are being put into place. Now, when you think about the Belt Road, when you think about Shanghai Cooperation, when you think about all of these groups, the Asiatic countries, Middle Eastern countries that aren't in BRICS, Brazil's holding it. In fact, it's today that the meetings are going on, was that they want to develop a new payment system independent of SWIFT. We're going to open up this new technology to non-BRICS members. However, it's not compatible with the pound, the dollar, or the euro. So they're keeping the West out, but now put it in context of what I just said with the Belt Road, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Asiatic countries. If they are all involved and closely aligned with the BRICS and the BRICS nations, but not BRICS, and they are going to open this payment system up, which allows for payment in local currencies, which only strengthens one another's economies and their own system, rather than converting to dollars, making the trade, going back from dollars to the other currency. You got 4 conversions back and forth, and all of this time. This new bridge platform settles in 7 seconds, not 3 to 5 days that SWIFT does. This new platform has a 98% reduction in fees. All of this stuff put into play, and then think about the size and scope of opening this up to non-BRICS nations is enormous. And all of a sudden, you have something that can very quickly challenge not only the settlement status of the dollar, but the reserve status, because what gold is doing in all of these vaults is not replacing the dollar, it's replacing what stands behind the dollar. It is a skeletal system, these vaults, of a whole new infrastructure, monetary infrastructure, and gold will take the place of treasury bonds. That is what, in my mind, it is doing. It is backing with legitimacy. The whole thing in the United States done again is that once we left the gold standard in 71, we were a system based on trust. And for a long time, we were trusted and revered. And you could argue the last 4, 5, 6 years, that level of trust is waning. And I think the world has gotten tired of promises, of a country that won't get its fiscal house in order, that continues to go around bullying. Trump says, you nations who do this with the BRICS, another 10% tariff. That's not a tariff, that's a sanction. This is what's pushing them all together to begin with. So I think Lavrov's comments are massive. If they do open this up to all of these other countries, you're talking 90+% of human population that will have the ability to trade outside the SWIFT system and settle in gold through a series of multi-jurisdictional vaults. To me, it's the biggest news that's come out of the BRICS maybe since day one, since I started covering it. I'm not hearing it anywhere, which is kind of strange to me. You're hearing a lot about the new settling in yuan and the multi-jurisdictional, but put it in the context of the BRICS, it's massive because it gives them legitimacy that they won't find with just having 10 or 12 or 15 countries. You now are talking about 160 countries, 170 countries. You're talking the majority of the world. And that should be factored into the equation and not, overlooked. What's happening in Japan? The problem is it's the bond market in Japan. Rates are rising. The carry trade is disappearing. Well, the same thing will be true here. Ultimately, you get Jamie Dimon come up and he said, not in so many words, that it's not a matter of when or if, it's when there's a problem with the bond market. And the bond market is the issue. There's a lack of demand. It's a waning demand. ultimately there's a problem with the bond market, and that problem would be a bond collapse, interest rate spike, and that's the reset that we've talked about, maybe differently than we anticipated. But if the bond market really collapsed and interest rates spiked considerably, stocks, bonds, real estate, the banks, the insurance companies are all in big trouble.
AndySchectman highlights that Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov recently confirmed the new BRICS payment system will be available to non-BRICS nations, but explicitly stated it is incompatible with the US dollar, euro, or British pound. This move effectively excludes the West, reinforcing the bloc's ambition to build a parallel financial infrastructure. Lavrov underscored this shift by noting that Russia now conducts 65% of its trade with BRICS members in local currencies, a significant departure from its past reliance on the dollar. Russian Finance Minister Anton Siluanov echoed the message during the summit, stating that intra-BRICS trade in national currencies has already demonstrated reliability and independence from Western financial institutions, which, as he noted, can suspend payments at any time. This decoupling is part of a broader geopolitical and monetary strategy aimed at reducing exposure to Western influence. The sentiment was reinforced by Bolivian President Luis Arce, who issued a direct call for nations to stop using the US dollar in international trade. Speaking on the sidelines of the 17th BRICS Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Arce declared that the era of single-nation monetary dominance, specifically that of the United States, has come to an end. By encouraging de-dollarization and the use of national currencies, BRICS and its allies are laying the foundation for a more multipolar monetary world, one where influence is distributed and financial sovereignty is protected from political interference. Let's get back to the interview.
Look at the Bank of England held the gold of Venezuela. Nope, can't have it. Sorry. Now, again, and I use the United States in this context. First of all, when you have the Bridge Settlement Network, MBridge, it's instant auditing, it's instant settlement, and it's instantly verifiable transparently. Think of what Zoltan Pozsar said, transparency in commodities. This is a marriage between blockchain technology and commodities and gold. Having it held in multi-jurisdictional locations with every country spreading their gold amongst those jurisdictions is genius, because it does take the trust out of it, and it's verifiable, and it's transparent. And that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Having it held in one location, you end up making the wrong choice by partnering with the wrong side, and you get locked out of your assets. And that's Venezuela would make that choice. And it's not for us as the world reserve currency to determine that. You know, and I always go back to Iraq. We're there 22 years later, and ask the people in the Middle East if it was justified destroying their country, toppling their regime, and didn't find the weapons that they said were there, and they're still there. So I'm not saying that America is holier than thou. I'm proud to be an American. I really am. I thank God every day for it. But the rest of the world would say, well, that's hypocritical, that they can do this, they can destroy a country, topple the regime, occupy 22 years later, and still, you know, figure that they can pass judgment on another country's actions. It's not fair. We should not be the judge, jury, and the executioner is the bottom line. And I think that's the model that they're trying to go far away from. And that is that, yes, China may have a very significant role in all of this, but by putting the vaults all around the world in different countries with instant auditing on a blockchain network, you are in as trustful as you can possibly be in a system that isn't controlled by one player, even if one player is slightly more dominant in things than others. If all the gold was held in Shanghai and the Chinese control it, yeah, it you know, what does that mean? But you have it in 20 vaults around the world, and everyone puts gold in each one of the vaults, and you now have something truly distributed that would keep that from happening. No one was talking about the draining of the COMEX. I was. What's happening? The COMEX and the LBMA are being drained. No one was talking about BRICS. I was. BRICS wasn't a thing. Saudi Arabia wasn't even thinking of it. And a lot of it has happened. Not the way that I thought, all of it. Not all of it has happened, but a lot of the stuff that you and I have talked about, I called it a linear progression of events. It's happened. A lot of it has. The way that it is. That's why I talked with you before about misdirection and the art of war. We live in a world where things are very competitive, and world reserve currency, investments, direction of investments, all that stuff is proprietary and private, and there is no reason that anyone worth their salt would tell the world what they're doing. So they do the opposite, or they drop crumbs, and you can see the crumbs as you continue to research it, and you have to. And this is one of the reasons that people aren't successful in investing, largely, because they don't take the time. If they spent the fraction of the amount of time researching to safeguard their money as they did making the money, they would be a whole heck of a lot more successful in preserving their funds and growing their funds, because they work so hard to put money in the bank and food on the table. They come home, they're tired. I mean, when I walked into this room today, you said, it's tiring, isn't it? I mean, yeah, it is, because we've been working hard at this show for 2 days. It's tiring. And the last thing you might want to do at that point is dig into geopolitical events and, investments. And that's what I have an advisor for, right? Let him do it. Well, that's the problem. And I think you have to do that nowadays. The world has gotten to a point where, yes, you can find the crumbs, you can see the crumbs, you got to dig to find them, but then you have to put them together and make your own. That's why, I think there's 3 sides to every coin. There's one side, there's the other side, but there's the middle, the rim. So you look at both sides of the coin and then figure out that third side. What does it mean to you? Man, that might be the best analogy, but that's the only analogy I can give you, is that none of this will ever be easy. None of it. And by the time it's on the mainstream, which appears easy, the big people have already way positioned themselves, and they're sitting, the old adage, on the deck chair of, sipping a cocktail, watching all of this happen. You need to make these decisions before it becomes obvious. That's really what I try to do, and try to be a little bit different in this industry by researching, finding something, tracking it, and seeing how it all plays out, and continuing to find new things. Like, a lot of people are talking about what I am with the BRICS and with the new yuan settlement into gold, but I've heard no one talk about Lavrov's comment that they're opening it up to non-BRICS nations, with the exception of the pound, the euro, and the dollar. Well, to me, that's about as big as it gets, because that hits at the heart of the naysayers who say they're not big enough. Yeah, they are. If they open this up and allow, just like, for example, Switzerland was allowed to trade with the European Union with treaties, even though they never became part of the euro, it's the same thing. It's opening up trade with all of these nations, even though they're not the BRICS nations. They're trading with the BRICS nations because of this new settlement system. And if you realize that China's entire goal is this Belt Road Initiative and all of the countries within it, there's hardly a country on the Belt Road that's in the BRICS, 1 or 2. But now you've just opened it up to 75% of human population, and all of these countries in the Belt Road are being industrialized. They're underdeveloped and they're resource rich. So China brings them into the fold, and all of a sudden you have all of these people and all of this growing infrastructure that is settling outside the dollar. And instead of buying treasuries, buying commodities and gold to offset that risk of holding treasuries. It's a monstrous thing for the rest of the world and very bad for the dollar. And it's one of these things, because it's so drawn out, the little by little by little, and not the all at once, and people just dismiss it and poo-poo it. There will come that all at one moment, maybe long after we're gone. I don't know, maybe next week. I don't know. But if you don't see the little by little and the chess pieces that are being put into place, then you're not paying attention. But to your point, you got to dig. You won't find it on the evening news or on Fox News or anywhere.
Tectonic shifts in global finance are unfolding quietly but decisively. As trade routes realign and new monetary rails are laid, a decentralized bullion-based framework is beginning to challenge the long-standing pillars of Western economic dominance. What once sounded like speculation now resembles strategy, one built not on ideology but on insulation from financial coercion. With payment systems designed to bypass entrenched powers and vaults being filled across diverse jurisdictions, a more decentralized model of economic influence is emerging. This architecture may not yet have a single flag or currency, but it carries the weight of collective intention and gold bars to back it. Could this emerging structure truly supplant the existing financial order, or will it coexist in a high-stakes balance of power where bullion and bytes compete for control? Share your perspective in the comments section. If the video resonates with you, join our community by subscribing to our channel and enabling notifications with the bell icon. Thank you for being a part of our community.